I'm calling Ian McKelvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a shame when you've got to start at the back end of your speech and finish at the front end, but that's what I'm going to do. I need to take issue with the previous speaker on a number of things he's raised in the point of that speech, and I take exception to the way he dealt with farmers. Clearly, legislation is never going to stop errant people. It's only going to prosecute them or punish them for being errant. And I think that those numbers are very few in New Zealand, and I think it's a gross miscarriage of the use of this House, in fact, to use the terminology he used around the number of people who, I guess, break the law and things like that. I also need to defend the Minister and his ministry. I think they do an outstanding job. We have an international reputation second to none when it comes to animal welfare. The only countries that do better than us have no animals. And I think we are particularly careful how we treat animal welfare in this country. We do have a great record, as I've said. I just wanted to touch on the SOP raised by the previous speaker, which I'll refer to as Mr Mallard's SOP. We have, over the years, evolved. A regime has evolved around the way we look after and I guess, treat animals. And that's evolved over almost centuries throughout the world. We have some practices in New Zealand which this Parliament, clearly, and I agree with them, think eventually need to be changed. But changing practices that have evolved throughout history and evolved for the better and on the whole throughout history is a long-term process. And I think it's totally impractical to think that we can stop these practices after 7 years when we may well need to take significant notice of the changes that occur in those years leading up to the I guess, expiration date of those of our tolerance for them, and we certainly need to have some ability to those practices to continue, provided they're closely monitored and managed in a proper manner. So for that reason, we will not be supporting that SOP. I think it's far too severe, and I think also it places our ability to farm in at least two areas of our food chain at great difficulty, when in fact all we would do was accept produce from countries that don't have the same set of standards we have. So it certainly would, and so I think that that's interesting. Mr Chair, I want to go back to the beginning of this bill and the reason for it. It's hugely important to New Zealand. It deals with about $25 billion worth of exports annually, and that's increasing on an annual basis. We have a huge amount of importance put on that. I also want to deal very quickly with the select committee process, because I know the Minister touched on it, and I think that the cooperation around sometimes, I guess, slightly agitated debate around this bill was pretty good around that table. It took quite some time to get the bill through the select committee, and certainly from the Green perspective and a number of inputs from the Labor Party had quite an interesting impact on where this bill's eventually got to. And I think we've arrived in a pretty good space on that. So some 2.5 years after the introduction of the bill, we're back in the House talking about the committee stages, and I think on the whole we're in good space. I want to very briefly talk about the SOP introduced by the Minister, which is very important in that it enables us still to deal with issues that are quite, I guess, complicated around health and welfare of the New Zealand community if we need to, and at the same time protects animals from any kind of, I guess the word cosmetic is probably the most logical word, from any kind of cosmetic testing. So it puts us in good space in that respect, enables us to do some work if it's urgently required, but certainly precludes us from doing what I would call the spurious or the miscellaneous stuff around animals that we certainly can find other ways of satisfactorily getting through if we need to. So, Mr Chair, I think we've arrived in a good space on this bill, and I think the Select Committee did a great job on it. I think that all those people involved in it, from the Chairman, Shane Ardern, down, had a great input and did very well. He was a very good farmer, Shane Ardern, yeah. And so, Mr Chair, I'm happy to leave it there. In the meantime, I think we're in good space, and that's me.
Mr Chair.
I call the Honourable Damien O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr Chairman, and I'm just